At the end of Season 2, everything looked quiet on the outside. But inside, the pressure was building fast. The oil fields were still running, the trucks were still moving, and the workers were still doing their jobs. But the peace that everyone hoped for did not feel real. It felt fragile, like glass that could break at any second. People were tired from fighting, tired from arguing, and tired from trying to protect what belonged to them. Yet no one truly trusted that the danger was gone. Tommy had spent the entire season fighting to keep control of his land and his business. Every decision he made came with risk. He had to stand strong against powerful companies that wanted to take everything from him. These companies were not just looking for profit. They wanted power, control, and influence. Tommy knew that if he made even one wrong move, he could lose everything he had worked for. His family, his workers, and his future were all on the line. Throughout the season, we watched Tommy face one problem after another. There were legal battles, business threats, and dangerous situations that tested his strength. He had to make hard choices, and sometimes those choices hurt the people around him. But he never stopped fighting. He believed that protecting the land was not just about money. It was about pride, responsibility, and survival. That belief kept him going, even when the pressure became almost too much to handle. At the same time, tensions between families and companies continued to grow. Trust became harder to find. Friends started to question each other. Partners began to look for their own advantage. The oil business is known for being tough, and in Season 2, we saw just how ruthless it could be. Deals were made behind closed doors, secrets were kept hidden, and loyalty was tested again and again. Everyone was watching their backs, because no one knew who might turn against them next. One of the most important parts of the Season 2 ending was the feeling that something bigger was coming. Even when the fights seemed to slow down, the danger never truly disappeared. The land was still valuable, the competition was still strong, and the stakes were still very high. It was like standing in the middle of a quiet field right before a thunderstorm. The air felt heavy, the sky looked dark, and everyone could sense that trouble was on the way. Cammy, in particular, began to show signs of change. Earlier in the story, she appeared calm and loyal, someone who supported the team and wanted the best for everyone. But as the season moved forward, her behavior started to shift. She became more serious, more distant, and more focused on her own goals. Small moments revealed her frustration. Her expression showed anger that she tried to hide. Her silence spoke louder than her words. Many viewers noticed these changes right away. They saw the tension in her eyes and the way she reacted during important conversations. It was clear that she was not happy with how things were going. She felt overlooked and underestimated. She believed that her voice was not being heard, and that her efforts were not being respected. These feelings slowly built up inside her, creating pressure that could not stay hidden forever. The final moments of Season 2 were especially powerful. Instead of giving fans a clear ending, the story left them with questions. The camera focused on quiet scenes filled with tension. Characters looked worried, unsure about what would happen next. The future felt uncertain, and the peace that everyone wanted seemed very far away. It was not a happy ending. It was a warning. That ending told us one important thing. The story was not finished. The conflict was still alive, and the next chapter would be even more dangerous. Season 3 is expected to take this tension and push it to a whole new level. Bigger risks, bigger battles, and bigger surprises are waiting just around the corner. And as fans look back at the end of Season 2, one question keeps coming to mind. Was that quiet moment really the end? Or was it simply the calm before the biggest storm the oil fields have ever seen? The final chapter of Season 2 did not end with cheers or celebration. It ended with silence. The kind of silence that makes people uneasy. The machines were still running, the oil was still flowing, and the sun still rose over the fields every morning. But something had changed. The feeling of safety was gone. Even the strongest workers, the ones who had seen years of danger, could sense that trouble was still close. The storm had not passed. It was only waiting. Tommy stood at the center of it all, carrying the weight of every decision on his shoulders. For him, the land was more than business. It was his identity. It was proof of his hard work, and his promise to protect the people who depended on him. Season 2 showed how far he was willing to go to keep control. He faced threats from powerful rivals, pressure from investors, and constant fear that one mistake could destroy everything. Yet he refused to step back. He kept pushing forward even when the cost became personal. Every victory Tommy achieved came with a new problem. When he solved one issue, another appeared right behind it. It was like trying to stop water from leaking through cracks in a wall. No matter how hard he worked, the pressure never stopped. His team watched him closely, hoping he would find a way to keep them safe. They trusted his leadership, but they also knew the risks were growing bigger every day. The oil business in Season 2 felt like a battlefield. Instead of weapons, people used contracts, money, and influence. Meetings became tense, filled with quiet threats and hidden anger. One wrong word could turn partners into enemies. Deals were made quickly, sometimes in secret, because everyone wanted an advantage. Trust became rare and loyalty became even more valuable. Families were also caught in the middle of this struggle. The fight for land and power did not stay inside offices or boardrooms. It followed people into their homes. Conversations at dinner tables became serious and emotional. Parents worried about the future of their children. Spouses argued about the risks of staying in the business. The pressure from work slowly entered every part of their lives, making it impossible to relax. As the season moved toward its ending, the tension grew stronger. Each episode felt heavier than the last. Workers noticed small changes around them. More security, more meetings, more whispers behind closed doors. Even the air felt different, as if the land itself knew that danger was coming. The calm moments were short, and the sense of peace never lasted long. One of the most powerful themes in the final episodes was uncertainty. No one knew what the next day would bring. Would there be another legal fight? Another business attack? Another accident in the field? These questions stayed in everyone's mind. Sleep became harder and trust became weaker. People started to prepare for the worst, even when they hoped for the best. Tommy himself began to show signs of exhaustion. He still acted strong in front of others, but the pressure was slowly wearing him down. His face looked more serious. His voice sounded more tired. He spent long nights studying reports and planning strategies, trying to stay one step ahead of his enemies. He understood that leadership meant sacrifice, and he was willing to pay that price. But deep inside, he knew the fight was far from over. At the same time, the competition became more aggressive. Rival companies started making bold moves, pushing harder to take control of valuable land. They offered bigger deals, used stronger tactics, and showed less patience. Their goal was simple: win at any cost. This created a dangerous environment where mistakes could lead to disaster. The stakes were higher than ever before. But perhaps the most surprising change happened quietly, almost unnoticed at first. Cammy, who had always seemed calm and dependable, began to act differently. She spoke less during meetings. She watched others carefully, as if studying their weaknesses. Her expressions became serious, and her patience started to fade. These changes were small, but they were clear enough to make people wonder what was happening inside her mind. There were moments when Cammy looked frustrated, even angry. She listened to decisions being made without her input. She saw others receive credit for work she believed she deserved. Over time, these feelings began to grow stronger. Instead of speaking openly, she kept her thoughts to herself. Her silence created distance between her and the rest of the team. Viewers could sense that something important was building inside her. It was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet and steady, like a fire slowly spreading under the ground. The more pressure she felt, the more determined she became. She started to think about her own future, her own power, and her own place in the business. That shift in thinking would later become one of the biggest turning points in the story. The final scenes of Season 2 captured this tension perfectly. There were no big explosions or dramatic speeches. Instead, the camera focused on serious faces and silent moments. Characters stood alone, thinking about what might happen next. The sky looked dark, and the atmosphere felt heavy. It was a clear signal that peace was only temporary. One scene showed workers finishing their tasks as the sun set behind the oil rigs. The machines continued to move, but the mood was different. Instead of feeling proud, people looked worried. They understood that the next chapter could bring bigger challenges than anything they had faced before. The future felt uncertain, and the risk of failure felt very real.